And my topic, Finlandization and Soviet agents of influence, and on that picture you can see how it went. But first, definition of Finlandization or Finlandisierung. The original term is German, Finlandisierung, and first it was used in Austria in 1950s and then in West Germany, and it became really very popular. And there is different kind of interpretations of this Finlandisierung. One is that country get more and more effect to bigger one, and in this case, as Finland did, Soviet Union was that bigger fellow who affected to Finnish things, and then there is this kind of interpretations that this was only a Western imagination that what went on Finland, and there is also different kind of point of view that it was this kind of situation when all statements about the Soviet Union that divided from its propaganda were hushed up, or their authors were denounced as political corpses. Finlandization paralyzed normal thought processes. And then there are some who think that this was this kind of wonderful story of survival. I don't agree on that last one. And of course there was different kind of interpretations, and because this was German word, then we also find that West Germany there could be this kind of term that Bonnisierung, and on that some Finns thought that Cold War period affect more to the West Germany than Finland, and depends on the NATO and United States are the reason why they are acting like Pavlov's dogs. But on my point of view is that most precise definition is by Finnish historian Seppo Hentilä, who wrote that in the West it was thought that the Soviet Union interfered in Finland's international affairs and forced Finns to bow its will. This was also a form of Finlandisering, but it was also something completely different and much more because it happened of the Finns' own free will. Fortunately for the Finns, this typically Finnish dimension of Finlandisering was probably not fully understood in the West. It meant self-censorship to which some politicians, journalists, intellectuals and business elite adapted. People turned a blind eye to problems of the Soviet Union. The Moscow card, appealing to real or imagined interest of Finland's eastern neighbor, became a powerful domestic political trump card and a national custom. And because on the topic there was also this agent of influence, on that definition, according to the KGB, these suitable agents of influence were ministers or officials in prominent positions or officials in various parties, but they could be almost every person who could access to power and could affect on some way to that what happened, what would serve that Soviet case. And those agents of influence were foreign people and recruited or not recruited by the KGB, and their social status was the main focus on the KGB, that they tried to find those people who could be benefit to their cause. Those people who could shape public opinion, influence on different ways to that decision making and activities. And this agent of influence has been seen one of the most effective methods of Soviet active measures, and those were very difficult to find. Individuals, they act independently and expressed their own opinions, and not always repeated that Soviet rhetoric. And of course, there are some other opinions. Ivo Jurve has noted that some of these agents of influence were very easy to find out because their doings, and but if they are not doing anything illegal, so they cannot be punished. So there's this wave methods can be harmful, but they can be legal, and it's difficult to end those activities. And Finland and Cold War, there has been some writings that Finland avoided the effect of Cold War, but that is not the case. The KGB officer Alberta Kulov was strongly on that point that they fought their Cold War also in Finland, and one of the main characters were these agents of influence. And in Finland, it has been seen that it was very easy to use this kind of persons, because the political atmosphere in Finland was favor to Soviet Union. There was this called Paasikivi-Kekkonen line, that we tried to keep very good relations with the Soviets, and then there was this Finlandization, that we had a blind eye to the problems of the Soviet Union. And these agents of influence, there were very many of those in Finland. And also another kind of agents, but I don't speak about those because it is another topic, because there are different levels of this kind of agents who are worked for different services. And why we know about these activities are that there has been some defectors. One defector which was mentioned previously was Anatoly Golitsyn, who defected in 1961 in Finland. And he told different kind of stories, and some of those were maybe reliable and some were not. And one of the main claim was that Urho Kekkonen was an KGB agent or agent of influence, and this has been repeated many times in different books and articles, but this was a rumor. Golitsyn defected in 1961 when Kekkonen had been in power in 5 years, and so he didn't have all the information on that time when he defected. But different kind of things which Kekkonen did can be connected to the work which agents of influence had done, and this has repeated several times, also in Anders and Corrien's book about KGB. And of course, if you are fishing with the resident of KGB, there can be that kind of impression that you are some kind of co-worker, but there is Kekkonen and Viktor Vladimirov, resident of KGB in Helsinki, fishing. And but Kekkonen knew how to play the game. He had worked in Finnish state police, and he had no naive opinions about KGB or Russia. So he knew what he was doing, and Kekkonen had also contacts to Western services, MI6 and also to CIA. So this was this kind of normal way. There was two routes to affect and deal with the policy with Soviet Union. There was this formal way through diplomatic channels, and then this KGB channel. And this was used several times, and different people used this kind of route, and they tried to also promote their own goals, and some succeeded and some were not, and also Finland get affected via this routes. It was a two-way street, as Yuri Deryabin had said. And these KGB officers in Finland, they had a long period service in Finland. Viktor Vladimirov is one of those. One time he was head of KGB's assassination department in 1960s, but he spent his time mostly in Finland and had several conversations and Finnish who he had talks, and there is this question, where's the line? And when you are talking about intelligence officer, when that is unacceptable or appropriate, and it is very hard to describe when that is inappropriate from the outside. And Vladimirov know how to play the game with the Finns, and he also had his fingers on Finnish presidency elections several times, and Soviet Union several times also affected the Finnish policy. Government was changed based on Soviet opinion in 1958 and 9, so-called night frost crisis, and then there was different kind of other crises, and was that aim on Finland or somewhere else? This has been disputed several times. And some Finnish politicians had their fingers on these events. One of Finnish politicians had talks with Vladimirov, and he expressed who should be the next president after Kekkonen. And when Vladimirov left Finland, there was several Finnish politicians greeting him from left to right, and it tells that they had very good connection with him, and he wasn't only one. Alberta Kulov, who had previously been before Vladimirov in Finland, also had very good relations, spoke perfect Finnish, but he was deported from Finland in 1973. But next year he was fishing with Kekkonen, and he also, Akulov, returned to Finland after Vladimirov. And so these kind of close connections and effect to the Finnish policy was very strong, and in 1980s there were no longer parties who would be on different views on that Finnish foreign policy, which was very pro-Soviet, and they were all on that so-called Paasikivi-Kekkonen line. And this continued after the Cold War, and these consequences were that what was opinion of head of Finnish security police Eero Kekomäki, that the post-war period, which in his opinion continued until the end of 1980s, created exceptional habit and obscured the morale of many politicians, and this continued, and some of these effects also continued long after the end of the Cold War, and these friendly relations could end to the situation that people came this kind of agents of influence, which served the Russian interest.
Thank you so much. Last speaker of this panel, Dr. Murat Deleker, completed his master's and doctoral degrees in pedagogy at Moscow State University. During his studies in Russia, he worked as an assistant translator at the press office of the Turkish embassy in Moscow. He focused on the Russian security policies and intelligence activities, as well as the role of the Russian media in domestic and foreign policy. Dr. Deleker currently works as a national education specialist at the Turkish Ministry of National Education's Board of Education.
First of all, I would like to express my gratefulness for everyone who organized this wonderful event, and I have a big pleasure and honor to be here. So my name is Murat, I'm from Turkey, and I would like to today talk about what correspondence as a conduit utilized by Russia in its information activities. It may sound very banal term, but on the other side, it's very important topic. So in this study, we examine how the concept of journalist in Russia has evolved from a neutral observer into what we term a cognitive front soldier. To understand Russia's current operations, we must first accept that the traditional boundaries of warfare has dissolved. As Schmidt argues, we are now in an era of gray zone conflicts. While Western military frameworks often treat information warfare as a tactical element, Russia views it as an uninterrupted strategic processes what persists even during peacetime. We are witnessing a paradigm shift in Russian strategic thought, a move from information psychological warfare to mental warfare. The objective here is not merely to deceive, but to dominate the consciousness of the adversary society, compromise the free will of decision makers, and dismantle social values. The theoretical foundation for this is the Gerasimov doctrine. General Valery Gerasimov notably asserted that in the 21st century, the effectiveness of non-military means has surpassed power of weapons. In Russian military mindset, physical victory is impossible without first achieving the cognitive incapacitation of enemy. This relies heavily on Vladimir Lever's theory, as dear Elena mentioned also, of reflexive control. This implies transmitting carefully created information to an adversary to compel them to make predetermined decision, a decision they believe is their own, but which actually serves Russia's interests. So this modern strategy is not an improvisation, it's a direct continuation of Soviet heritage. To understand Russian war correspondent today, we must look at historical pillars. First is Lenin's collective organizer, and we know that Lenin defined the press not as a news source, but as a collective organizer to mobilize the masses. Today's telegram channels are digital reincarnation of 1920s workers and peasant correspondents. What did they? They showed a process of industrialization to people, to mass of Soviet Union. But on the other side, we know that we worked very closely with state. Without any permission, they did not any news or any articles write. So second one is the World War II model. During the Great Patriotic War, correspondents were armed officers by the law, we know that. So their job was not objective reporting, but the creation of sacred hatred against the enemy to boost morale and consolidate society. And third, it's very important, KGB active majors. So this is a crucial point of our research. During the Cold War, journalists were one of the key assets. In my and my friends' work on this subject, we translated the KGB intelligence dictionary to Turkish language, and my friend Oğuz will also tell about active majors tomorrow. He goes to details. So according to this dictionary, journalists are explicitly categorized as key implementers of active majors. In this dictionary, we established that the intelligence services viewed journalists not as reporters, but as agents of influence, whose primary role was to spread disinformation or shape public opinion in favor of state. So this active measures doctrine is the DNA of today's operations. So last one, present day, they are using Telegram. A structural parallel exists between modern Telegram channels and the workers and peasants correspondence of the 1920s assembly. Volunteers from the people who work was entirely state control to disseminate party ideology. So, what a lovely faces, yeah? Okay, having established the historical context of active measures, we must now examine how this doctrine manifests in the digital age. The primary operational domain for Russian information activities is Telegram. Unlike traditional media, Telegram functions as a dual-purpose tool. It facilitates the dissemination of such state narratives while simultaneously allowing intelligence services to monitor information flows in gray areas where official propaganda struggle to penetrate. In this ecosystem, we observe the rise of the Voyageur, war correspondents. These are not merely reporters, they are integral parts of the state's military political mission. To understand this phenomena, we must look at the hierarchy of these actors, starting with the permanent soldiers and moving to the operatives. So, Alexander Kots and Yevgeny Podubny, they are permanent soldiers according to Gerasimov doctrine. So, Alexander Kots, he is a special correspondent for Komsomolskaya Pravda, but his role goes far beyond journalism. He has been decorated with state awards such as Medal of Valor and the Medal for Participation in Military Operation in Syria. His integration with state is so complete that he publicly campaigned for Vladimir Putin in 2023. And Yevgeny Podubny also similarly serves as a key conduit, reporting for VGTRK. It's a consortium of Russian states, new agencies and companies. He has covered conflicts from Syria to Ukraine. Like Kots, like Alexander Kots, he is a decorated figure holding medals for his role in Syria. These figures provide the official yet frontline face of the state's narratives. So there's a very interesting personality as Alek Blokhin. He is a combatant journalist, okay? However, we dig deeper, the line between observer and participant vanishes completely, and Alek Blokhin represents this shift more starkly. Blokhin gained prominence covering the conflict in Syria and later in Ukraine. But our analysis of his content reveals he is not a non-combatant. We have documented video evidence where Blokhin acts as a military instructor for volunteer units. In one specific video series titled Individual Fire Training, Blokhin is seen teaching assault unit fighters how to shoot from cover and move tactically. When a journalist is a training soldier to kill, they are no longer media personnel. They are military assets. So also Semyon Pegov is one of the most popular war correspondents, and he has a project, Vargonza project, and especially maybe more than 1 million subscribers. Its numbers very big for Telegram platforms, okay? Because we know that RIA Novosti or TASS agency or Russia Today also have subscribers like 1 million on 1,100,000. These are very strong personalities. And there is a project, Ribar. It's very interesting. If you don't know that, you have to know if you are trying to understand Russia and media ecosystem. More sophisticated evolution of model intelligence hub as an intelligence hub with over 1.4 million subscribers. Ribar is one of the most influential channels. It's run by Mikhail Zvinchuk, a former military interpreter and officer trained in Arabic and English at Military University of Ministry of Defense. So Ribar is not just a blog. It's an intelligence enterprise covering strategic developments from the Middle East to the Balkans. You can find in everywhere, Turkey, Central Asia, Far East, also Latin America, in Africa, in everywhere, they are covering news. And we know that the Ribar project was founded in 2018, but Mikhail Zvinchuk has resigned from the army in 2019. So we can understand that this project is rooted from primarily the Russian army or GRU and etc. So we have another heroes here. Dva Mayora, it's anonymous, positioning themselves as active duty officers. Also 1.2 million subscribers. It's a very huge community and heavily involved in fundraising campaigns for frontline soldiers. So Colonel Kassat, also Boris Rozhin, he also is very interesting personality because he worked as a security personnel in supermarket once upon a time. And on the other side, he have had education and pedagogical, but in 2014 he started to share and cover some news about east side of Ukraine. Operation Z, Operacja Z, военкоры русской весны, I mean war correspondents of Russian Springs, also was emerged in 2014 on Ukraine issues. So I would like to give some examples, case studies. Our research identifies two distinct models of information operations employed by these actors: the expeditionary model observed in Syria and the existential war model observed in Ukraine. So in Syria, strategic objective was legitimacy building. Okay, war correspondents systematically simplified the multifaceted civil war into binary conflict. So I mean legitimate government versus international terrorism. So this framing served to delegitimize any opposition to Assad's regime by labeling them collectively as terrorists. 6 million people are terrorists. Okay, they left home, their children were killed, but they are terrorists, and we have to kill them. Okay, they don't deserve to live on the earth, according to this mentality. So reports consistently positioned Russia as the sole stability provider and the savior of a just order amid chaos. By linking the survival of the Assad regime to the defeat of terrorism, they framed the intervention as essential for Russia's own homeland security. On the other side, correspondents were embedded exclusively with regime forces and Russian army forces. This access allowed them to construct a narrative of a historical bond between Russia and Syria while silencing alternative perspectives. So I would like to talk about a little Ukraine. In Ukraine, the narrative strategy shifted fundamentally to historical revisionism. Its existential war model. So the conflict is not framed as a geopolitical dispute, but as a continuation of great patriotic war and unfinished historical task for the Russian people. This turns the war into an existential struggle demanding total social mobilization. Correspondents aggressively utilize terminologies such as Nazis, Banderists, and fascists to describe the Ukrainian state and army. This is designed to activate specific historical codes in Russian collective memory. And there is a deliberate heroization strategy. War correspondents cultivate the image of the Russian soldier as a victim of Western aggression, yet a hero savior liberating Ukraine from fascism. It sounds very lovely, yeah? Oh, we are killing some people, but on the other side, we are saving Ukraine from fascism. This mirrors the role of Soviet political commissions, reinforcing moral and ideological compliance. So I would like to talk about psychological warfare techniques and methods. There's 3 methods we can observe. So first of all, it's systematic dehumanization. The primary technique is total dehumanization of the adversity to lower the moral threshold for violence. So some rhetorical examples like military analyst Vasily Fatigarov described Ukraine as a cancerous tumor that Russia needs to surgically remove. And on the other side, unnamed Russian deputy of Duma, I'm so sorry for this expression, but he called Ukraine to a prostitute who has got infected with AIDS and wants to infect everyone. So they don't give any chance to survive out for Ukrainian people and etc. So we see that a war gonzo post is Semyon Pegov. A war post on Syria labels all oppositions as terrorist grouping and militants This binary framing strips down political legitimacy and simplifies a complex conflict into a fight against inhuman evil. What about Ukraine and Operation Z, Operacja Z, Военкор Русской Весны, both refers to Ukrainian soldiers as zombies and Nazis, claiming they are pumped full of drugs. This language dehumanizes them, denies their agency, and paints them as an irrational, monstrous force. So the second tool is sarcasm. It's also very productive tool. So weaponizing sardonic humor to undermine the credibility of the adversary, trivialize their narratives, and instill a sense of superiority in the domestic audience. So you can meet in every minute, in every second, sarcasm from war correspondents, I mean from военкоры, because they love it, and Russian people also love to hear some kinds of sarcasm and etc. So Yevgeny Podubny, it's one of the most prominent war correspondents. 8 years, Kiev fought with Russia fiercely, officially with hatred. 8 years later, Russia designed to appear at war, and then there was a cry. And why us? But there's a reason. So another expression, Podubny, don't forget that the main condition for successful offensive actions of armed forces of Ukraine is the complete absence of the enemy. So his country is fighting on the ground for 4 years, and he said that Ukrainian army is not successful and they are not doing anything. So we know that they humiliate President of Ukraine Zelensky. Alexander Kots mockingly refers to President Zelensky by the diminutive Zela. Zela сравнил себя с Churchillem. He said that he compared to himself to Churchill, and this is very sarcastic. He took a nap, and now he is Churchill. So it's one of the most sarcastic. So on the other side, third method and psychological technique is engineering public emotion to forge financial emotional partners. Creating content to trigger specific emotional responses, anger, pride, a desire for mobilization, to foster national identification and pro-war sentiment. This transforms passive observers into active participants. So we know that Dua Mayora, they are organizing fundraising, make the public financial and emotional partners in the conflict. While the donations may be materially insignificant to the Russian army, they are psychologically crucial for creating buy-in and sense of shared struggle. So in conclusion, the evidence indicates that Russia's utilization of war correspondence is a mandatory strategic orientation derived from its besides fortress psychology. In the era of mental warfare, the concept of neutral journalists has been eradicated. These actors have been transformed into cognitive front soldiers. Their function is to construct and legitimize the state's strategic narratives, serving as the modern implementers of the active measures doctrine we defined in KGB intelligence terms dictionary. This research is going on project. As the digital landscape evolves, we continue to monitor these mechanisms and these war correspondents and etc. There are lots of people are working on the war correspondence and etc. blogger and etc. because it's very popular in Russian media sphere. Everyone would like to be a hero like Alexander Kots or Yevgeny Podubny because they see the masculinity in these personalities, in these behaviors, and we know that masculinity is very, very important for Russian people. So we are trying to getting some information and gathering information, and so I would like to thank you for your attention.